Imagine sleeping outside. No walls, no locked door, no alarm system. Just you, a small fire, and the sound of something moving in the darkness just beyond where you can see. For most of human history, this wasn't a scary hypothetical. This was just Tuesday. Wolves have lived alongside humans for hundreds of thousands of years. They're fast, they're smart, they hunt in coordinated packs, and for most of that shared history, humans had no guns, no fences, and no real way to guarantee safety. So how did we survive this for so long? Let's start with something that might surprise you. Wolves actually avoided humans way more often than they hunted them. This sounds backwards, considering how dangerous wolves obviously could be. But wolves are naturally cautious animals. They're smart enough to know that a human group, working together, with weapons, fire, and the ability to coordinate an attack, is a genuinely risky target. Most predators, including wolves, are built around a simple cost-benefit calculation. Is this prey worth the risk of getting hurt trying to catch it? A single, isolated, weak human might seem worth that risk. A group of humans, alert, armed, and working together, usually wasn't. This is actually the first major survival strategy early humans developed, and it's deceptively simple. Never be alone. Ancient human groups almost never let individuals wander far from the group, especially not at night. Hunting parties moved together. Children stayed close to adults. Even basic tasks like gathering water were often done in pairs or small groups rather than solo. This wasn't paranoia, it was math. A predator looking at a group of 5 or 6 humans sees a coordinated, dangerous target. A predator looking at one human, alone, far from help, sees an opportunity. Early humans who internalized this lesson survived. The ones who didn't, often didn't get a second chance to learn it. Fire might be the single biggest reason humans survived alongside large predators at all. This sounds obvious, but the actual mechanism is more interesting than just, fire is scary. Most predators, wolves included, have an instinctive aversion to fire that goes back to a basic survival logic of their own. Fire is unpredictable, it can spread, it can burn, and animals that get too close to flames without understanding them tend to get hurt or killed. Over countless generations, this created a strong instinctive avoidance in most predator species, including wolves. Early human camps almost always kept fire burning through the night, specifically because it created a perimeter predators were extremely reluctant to cross. It wasn't a guarantee, but it shifted the odds significantly in favor of the humans sleeping nearby. Here's something most people don't think about. Humans are surprisingly loud, and that was actually useful. Wolves, like most predators, prefer prey that doesn't know it's being hunted. Surprise is one of their biggest advantages. Human camps, with their fires, conversations, and general noise, made surprise attacks significantly harder to pull off. A wolf approaching a quiet, sleeping group has a real chance of getting close before anyone notices. A wolf approaching a noisy camp, full of moving shadows from the firelight and the sound of people talking, has to work much harder to get anywhere close without being seen. Early humans, even without realizing the exact mechanism, were essentially broadcasting, "We know you might be out there," just by existing normally. Dogs deserve a massive amount of credit here, and this is where the story gets genuinely fascinating. At some point, tens of thousands of years ago, a specific kind of relationship started forming between humans and a certain type of wolf, the ones that were slightly less aggressive, slightly more tolerant of being near humans, and willing to scavenge near human camps instead of hunting humans directly. Over generations, this relationship deepened into something extraordinary. These wolves started serving as an early warning system. Their senses, smell, hearing, are dramatically better than human senses in the dark. A wolf-like companion sleeping near a human camp would often notice an approaching predator long before any human could. This eventually evolved into the domesticated dog. And it's worth sitting with the irony here for a second. One of the biggest reasons humans stopped being easy prey for wolves was other wolves who chose to switch sides. There's also a less obvious factor that mattered just as much as any physical strategy. Knowledge passed down through generations. Early humans weren't figuring out wolf behavior fresh, every single generation. They were inheriting accumulated knowledge from everyone who survived before them. Which areas wolves tended to avoid, which times of year predator activity increased, usually tied to wolves having pups to feed and needing more food. Which specific behaviors made an attack more or less likely? This knowledge wasn't written down. There was no book on wolf safety. It was carried entirely in stories, warnings, and direct teaching from older members of the group to younger ones. A community that successfully passed down this knowledge had a real survival advantage over one that didn't. And here's the part that ties everything together. None of these strategies, staying in groups, using fire, making noise, partnering with proto-dogs, passing down knowledge, worked perfectly on their own. What actually kept ancient humans relatively safe was the combination of all of them, used consistently, generation after generation. Wolves are smart, adaptable predators. Any single strategy, used alone, would eventually fail against animals capable of learning and adjusting. But layered together, group behavior, fire, noise, animal partnerships, and inherited knowledge, these strategies created enough of a deterrent that successful, sustained predator attacks on human groups became the exception rather than the rule. It wasn't about being stronger than a wolf. Humans never were. It was about being smart enough, together, that attacking a human group simply wasn't worth the risk most of the time. So next time you see a dog curled up at the foot of your bed, completely relaxed, fast asleep, you're looking at the literal descendant of one of the biggest reasons your ancestors made it through countless nights they probably shouldn't have survived. The wolves that decided humans were worth trusting, instead of hunting, ended up changing the entire future of both species. If your brain finds this stuff interesting, subscribe for more. Because there's a lot more about how humans actually survived a world that wanted to eat us. And it only gets stranger from here.